Damn, that poster.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Below Average Joe's MMA podcast, episode 78. It's Friday. That means another preview episode. I'm Noah B., joined, as always, by Dominic Salee. We end another week. How are you doing?
I'm doing well.
Good.
You know, it's been one of those long weeks.
It has
for you
been.
and I both.
Yeah,
Lots going on at work. And then, we got to still grind that podcast. 3-episode week for the podcast.
Right.
6-fight main card to break down for Saturday. But as always, I can't wait to do it.
Yeah, that's the thing, is like it adds to our plate,
Yeah.
but we don't leave any leftovers.
Yeah, this is when we unwind in the evening.
I think that's the dumbest thing I've ever said. But
That's all right. I've probably said worse.
I'm just glad you just brushed over it.
Just let it go.
So we're coming to you with the preview episode once again for hashtag UFC Vegas 21, headlined by a very intriguing welterweight fight originally scheduled to be Leon Edwards making his long-awaited return against the surging prospect in Khamzat Chimaev. Khamzat, his whole future's up in the air right now. But in steps Belal Muhammad, a guy who's quietly, as far as in the octagon, has made a rise here, but he is known as kind of one of the funniest guys on MMA Twitter.
This
so
is true.
He's kind of weirdly made a name for himself there, but it's like nobody really has watched him fight them all that much, it seems. But he's quietly kind of rose into... he's kind of making a believer out of people now.
Yeah.
And you got to be happy about that. As you mentioned, 6-fight main card.
Good fights.
Good fights. And, it's once again one of those cards where the main event isn't the most intriguing part of the card, but it's not a bad main event, but some of the fights underneath are just
bangers.
They look like they could be really fun on paper, and we'll be talking about that. But first, it's time for the news.
The news.
Not a whole lot going on this week. We do have a couple announcements. First, being on May 1st. Yeah,
See what you did there.
May 1st, we have a big fight at bantamweight. Merab Valishvili is back. He's going up against the vet, Cody Stamann. These are two guys in the top 15. Merab has really been making a name for himself, coming off of that win over John Dodson at UFC 252.
Looked so good in that fight.
I don't believe we've seen Cody since last summer. Is that correct? When he lost
he had
to
a
Jimmy
fight
Rivera.
He did have a fight with Rivera, and before that, he had beaten Brian Kelleher.
That's right.
Those were back-to-back. He fought Brian in June, and then Jimmy in July.
So both these guys getting a good amount of time off, a healthy amount of time off, especially for Cody, who was kind of in a couple wars last summer.
Yeah, and for Merab, he jumped into ice.
Yes, he did. But what are your thoughts on this fight?
This is intriguing because Cody is pretty well-rounded, but a strong grappler as well. But Merab, man, this dude, if he wants to take you down, he's going to find a way to do it. So I'll be interested to see more so how Cody can just fend off the takedowns, and when inevitably he does get taken down, can he bring it back to the feet? Because I'd imagine he has the upper hand on the feet. So it's an intriguing stylistic war, I think. And it has a lot of big implications.
And I could be wrong on this, but when you really break down the bantamweight division, especially Cody's opponents, the majority of the time, he's the stronger grappler in the fight.
Oh, yeah.
So
Big
he
dude.
always has that kind of in his back pocket. So, he's comfortable on the feet, but really he's trying to keep his opponents kind of guessing because they don't want to be taken down either.
Yep.
However, with Merab is going to be the better
what he's gonna
grappler.
do.
He's the better grappler here.
Yeah.
So I'd be interested to see kind of what does that make Cody do? What's his game plan going to be here? I imagine it will not be to... I mean, if he can take Merab down, that's one thing, and stay on top, but easier said than done.
Oh, yeah.
And then I'll be very interested to see if this fight stays on the feet, how Merab looks on the feet. Very untested at that
exactly.
in that facet of MMA. Cody is not by any means a world-class striker, but he's very competent on the feet, and he does have some power in his hands as well.
And I'd imagine, I think, being that he does have a grappling background as well, going 3 rounds, I don't see cardio becoming an issue. You never know when a guy like Merab is just dragging on your back the whole fight. But there are just a lot of interesting factors.
A lot of variables.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's coming to you on May 1st. After that, 5 days later on May 6th, the PFL announced a pretty big card that they're going to be showcasing 2 very notable talents.
Oh, yeah.
In your main event, Fabricio Verdum, the former UFC heavyweight champion, making his debut in the promotion, going up against Renan Ferreira. While in the co-main event, probably their biggest star that the PFL has made,
and our neighbor,
Kayla Harrison, gets her matchup against Mariana Moraes. Now, obviously, not a ton known about these opponents here.
Moraes does have a lot of fights compared to Kayla.
Yeah.
Very seasoned vet.
Very seasoned vet. And, Kayla just seems so seasoned, though.
Yeah.
She really fights with a really high fight IQ, which usually takes you so long to develop, but she really has picked up on these other aspects of mixed martial arts so just steadily.
Yeah, her stand-up slowly but surely catching up to that insane judo that she has. She's becoming very dangerous, very well-rounded. Yeah,
and then for Fabricio, this man's in his 40s. I'm very interested to see how he does in this tournament. I mean, I know, Fabricio, after coming back from his PED suspension over the last year, he had a kind of a mixed run of things, had a very, lackluster return against Alexei Oleinik, but then he did have a fantastic performance against Alexander Gustafsson, who was making his debut at heavyweight, and now he's in the PFL. So even though he is in his 40s, once again, fight IQ coming into play, and when it comes to the jiu-jitsu, there's nobody at heavyweight.
Not close.
And I'd be very interested to see how he does there.
Yeah.
He's going up against another Brazilian, so...
It'll be interesting, and I really just want to see where Fabricio still is. Can he still be at the highest of whatever organization he is in?
Right.
So.
That's coming to you on Thursday, May 6th, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on ESPN2.
Yeah, every single fight on that card, including prelims, is either heavyweights or women's lightweight.
Wow.
Every single fight.
You know what? I respect that. And then one more here. This isn't really a fight announcement. We've already talked about the fight, but just... Confirmation on...
Back to ABC.
Yeah, there you go. So the headliner, Darren Till versus Marvin Vettori, that whole card is going to be showcased on ABC Network on April 10th. Huge for the UFC. I mean, we guessed that the UFC would be back on ABC. I mean, that was a pretty...
You're given.
Yeah, I mean...
Especially after the fights we got to see.
Yeah, and I'm actually pleasantly surprised that they're doing it this quick. I thought it might be like maybe one more time for the rest of the year.
Yeah.
But it sounds like you might be seeing like 2 per quarter. Like maybe we'll get 6 events
6
on
to 8
ABC.
a year. That'd be awesome, man. All it does is put more eyes on the sport. It's a huge fight. It's the Vettori Till main event. And, they wanted to move Whitaker Costa to that card and do both of them, but Costa wanted another week for the weight cut, which, he's a big dude, so I understand. But ABC, and that is supposed to be the debut of Venom for the UFC.
That's true.
So that's a big... Just everything about it is huge.
Yeah.
You got to think that played a factor in, let's do ABC on that date.
And this isn't a one-fight card. You got fights like Sadiq Yusuf versus Arnold Allen.
That's my fight right there.
Then you got Nina Ansaroff making her return to the octagon against Mackenzie Dern.
That's a huge fight.
Among others, those are definitely the 3 biggest on that card, but it is a stacked card, and I'm glad that they get to showcase it again on ABC.
They're doing big things because they know so many eyes are going to be on them. Mm-hmm. It's that simple.
Yeah, completely agree.
Especially because that's when, March Madness comes to a close. Yeah. We're in a little bit of a lull. Mm-hmm. Here's some fights for you.
Yeah.
So, there you go.
Very good point. As for the rest, really only one thing to talk about, and I'm not sure what your thoughts are going to be, Dom, on this, but we got to kind of address Aljamain Sterling's first week as champion has been...
somewhat of a roller coaster.
I mean, if anything, it's just as weird as the way he won the fight.
Yeah.
So obviously, for context, he wins the fight via DQ because Peter Yan throws an illegal knee while Aljo was down. Mm-hmm. Aljo not able to continue, therefore... belt goes to him.
Correct.
Because they said it was a because the ref told him not to throw it, and he still threw it. So it was what was the wording used?
Intentional.
Intentional foul or whatever you want to call it. So therefore, he loses a belt, rather than it being a no contest. Afterwards, things have gotten a little weird because at the time, everybody was, disappointed that the fight had to end that way, especially because Pewter was really coming on strong and looked like the
tide was turning.
The better fighter that night. However, so it felt like the wrong man walked out with the belt. But you can't help that the guy winning the fight through a very basic rules of MMA, and he fucked it up and threw the knee. You can't help that. So I think a lot of people were on Aljo's side at first just because, you feel for the guy. You could tell he didn't want to win the belt that way.
Threw the belt down.
Yeah, it felt like you could tell like he just was very upset at the whole thing. And obviously he got his shit rocked. Then things got a little weird. Now, it started with, there was a lot of people that night on Twitter, and really it's continued up through today, that have, called out Aljo and said that he was phoning it in or faking it.
I don't like those accusations.
And, even some credible, when I say credible, like people that I follow, like people that I respect their opinion on, have actually spoken and said that they think the same. And I was very surprised by that. Now, and I'm sure you're going to agree with me on this, I don't feel comfortable to be in a place to say whether someone's faking it or not, because
he got kneed in the damn head.
I get it. I get how it might look, but I've never fought. You've never fought. I don't feel comfortable saying no. That guy did not get his shit rocked. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I kind of want to leave that part there, but it gets weirder.
It does.
After Aljo looking very distraught, and he still gives a post-fight interview and all that. He poses for a face-off with Henry Cejudo. Merab tweeting the picture and tweeting it at Dana White and saying this is the fight that needs to be next. So that was weird.
Yeah.
Then you see a picture of him holding the belt at some sort of party that him and his friends were celebrating at someone's house. So everybody's like, whoa, this is getting kind of weird. There is some more context to that, but I just want to add out everything. And then there's a story that's kind of came out today about Matt Serra and him, where Matt Serra was not in his corner Saturday. Ray Longo was, along with two other gentlemen. And Matt Serra came out today on his podcast, UFC Unfiltered, and kind of...
He seemed very upset.
You could tell he seemed very distraught.
Yeah.
He spoke very highly of Aljo's character, said what a great kid he is, and that he didn't want people to treat him differently. But basically because of this situation is retiring from cornering fighters, and said that he felt kind of betrayed and kind of felt a little pushed aside by Aljo. And then he even threw in there that Aljo kind of wouldn't just tell him to his face that he wasn't going to corner him. He kind of ghosted him for a few days.
Yeah.
So Aljo's had a very rough first week as champion.
It's been weird.
And the context to that video I was talking about is that there was another angle of the video later shown where his friends were trying to cheer him up, and they were like, say you're a world champion.
Yeah.
So they were just trying to make him feel better in the moment. I feel like that's justified.
Yeah.
But now you have Aljo kind of tweeting some weird things that make it sound like, first it's like, okay, the rematch is obviously going to happen, but then he's kind of tweeting at Henry Cejudo and stuff like that. It's I don't know. It's just been really odd for a guy who everybody was kind of rallying behind after this, even though they didn't think he necessarily
won the belt.
It appears just as quickly he's lost a lot of that support. So what are kind of your thoughts on this situation that's still ongoing, obviously? And
how about I just posed you one big old question?
Okay.
If there's a disqualification in a title fight, should the belt change hands?
Yes. So Here's kind of why. Because in pro wrestling, it does not.
This is true.
That's why when you have the bad guy as champion, a lot of times they do that in order to keep on their belt. And then people hate them for it.
Yeah.
It doesn't really work in real competition because what if the roles were reversed and Aljo was coming on strong and it looked like he was going to take a clear-cut decision. And then at the very end, and then in the 5th round, Peter Yan throws a knee at his face. And it's like, okay, I get to keep my belt at least.
Yeah.
You know, it would not work. You know, as much as we want to believe, and I'm not going to say otherwise, but that, you know, the fighters that we watch every week have higher morals than that. You know, when you're in that moment, in that competition,
shit happens.
Instinct takes over a lot of times. That's why I think the whole knee happened in the first place. I don't think Peter Yan's a bad guy. No. I don't think that I don't think that it was like intentional and like I don't think in his mind at the time he was looking at it like this is gonna end the fight.
It just happened.
Killer instinct kind of thing. So I think that I think anybody who says that a belt shouldn't change hands via DQ doesn't really understand the full ramifications of what they're suggesting. Mm-hmm. I understand that when you have it happen, like it did last Saturday, it sucks. Because the guy who gets the belt doesn't feel like he really earned it or deserves it. And it just feels like there's a lot left in the air.
I like your counter argument to it, though.
But I think it would be a lot worse if you did the opposite and allowed it or didn't allow it to change hands. I think it would just, the champions being beat could do whatever they want.
Yeah.
Squeak off with their belts. I don't like that.
I respect it. It's probably been the strangest first week as a champion, or one of, in UFC history.
Any thoughts on Aljo with Cejudo?
I don't like that at all. Mm-hmm. Everything else, because Aljo really broke down the family and the picture part really well with some videos, so that was fine. I don't necessarily, do you post them? I don't know, maybe, but do you? But the Henry thing... That one I didn't like. I didn't like that. You have to do the rematch here with Peter Yan. It was a great fight, and Peter started coming on strong. He loses his belt by disqualification.
I still gave it my fight of the night.
Yeah, so Henry does find a way to.
And I'm not saying that it was Aljo's idea, but regardless, he took the picture. I mean, he's in it.
Even Aljo did tweet that too, though, not just Merab.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying it was his idea. I don't really care whose idea it was. None of this makes me dislike the guy. I'm just kind of speaking from what I've seen online, and it's definitely the most split I've seen the MMA community since Conor Habib. Mm-hmm. It's really bizarre, and it's kind of warranted though, because this is just such an interesting and messy situation. And I don't like it. I just want it to go away. I wish that both these guys would just stay quiet. Because even Peter Yan's is not clean. Yeah. Obviously, if he doesn't throw the knee, this never happens. Yeah, none of this.
Exactly.
He likely holds on to his belt, more than likely. Obviously anything can happen. But he threw the knee. At first, he said, get well soon. And then now he's calling him
He's pissed.
Yeah, and I get it. But at the end of the day, you threw the knee.
Yeah.
So both these guys are kind of annoying me right now with some of their shenanigans.
We just need it to run back.
I just want to run it back and then we move on.
As quick as possible.
And then we just move on.
Yes.
Done.
But
the Sarah thing is pretty low, Aljo. I mean, come on, man.
Matt Sarah, if you want to come on and speak with us about it, you're more than welcome.
Come on, man. That guy was there for you for years. Couldn't even give him a call.
Yeah, I'll be interested to see what comes out about that. I'm sure he'll have his
He'll have his response. And you know what? Maybe I shouldn't speak. I don't want to jump the gun like so many do, but it doesn't look good, put it that way.
Yeah.
But that is the end of the news.
Let's break down some fights.
Let's do it. 6-fight main card, and I'm just going to go through here and tell you what fights we're breaking down. So we start at middleweight. The former Alabama linebacker, Eric Anders, going up against Tyron Woodley, a.k.a.
literal twin brother.
Darren Stewart.
It's crazy.
Then we go to flyweight, Matthias, Nicolau, and Manel Cape.
Back in action already, yeah.
Then at bantamweight, 2 youngins, Jonathan Martinez and Davey Grant. Then at featherweight,
this is the one.
Dan Ige versus Gavin Tucker.
That's the one, folks.
Co-main event at light heavyweight, 2 top 15 guys
Love
here.
this
Misha Serkinov versus Ryan Spann. Dominic had this fight for his Overtime Heroics article this week.
Can't wait for this fight.
Broke it down, predicted the fight. Go read it. If you go to either of our Twitters, you'll see it retweeted. Go follow Overtime Heroics. They do good work. Main event at welterweight, Leon Edwards and Belal Muhammad.
Rocky versus Remember the Name.
Such an interesting nickname for
I
Belal.
like it.
Yeah. But we start with Eric Anders versus Darren Stewart. What are your thoughts here?
This is fun. So Eric Anders, 13 wins, 5 losses, 8 KO TKOs, 1 submission. He's 5-5 in the UFC. Very active. Doesn't it just seem like he fights all the time?
He does fight.
Or he
quite
always
often.
has fights booked. Like, this dude's always just making headlines with fight announcements. Anyway, he's got 7 first-round finishes. Notable wins against Marcus Perez via decision and Gerald Mearchart. Some losses. Lyoto Machida, split decision. Got TKO'd by your boy, Thiago Santos. A split decision loss to Elias Theodoro. He lost a decision to Khalil Roundtree, and then most recently lost a decision to Krzysztof Jotko. Darren Stewart, 12 wins, 6 losses, 1 no contest, 7 KO TKOs, 1 submission. He's 5-6 with 1 no contest in the UFC. He's got 5 first-round finishes. Notable win, Eric Spicely via TKO, a split decision over Darren Wynn, and submitted Maki Patolo. Noah?
Coconut bombs.
Coconut bombs, yes. I like this fight. There's a lot of little interesting factors here.
Both these guys, I feel like their records are a little hit or miss, especially in UFC. They're very much 500 fighters at this point. But both, I feel like, still have more potential. Both of these guys, I think, can be top 15 in this division. It's just a matter of putting it all together. Right now, I feel like Darren Stewart is coming more into his own.
Yeah.
He's making bigger strides in doing that, while Eric Anders feels like he's stagnating quite a bit. And not even stagnating, it feels like he's kind of went backwards in some aspects. His cardio is really slowed down.
Mm-hmm.
That fight with Jotko was a snore, first off, and a lot of that was because he got so tired pretty early on in the fight. Both these guys are looking to finish the fight on the feet,
Yeah.
which could lead to a very exciting brawl here. But I really think Darren Stewart's the more technical guy, and I think he's the better fighter on this night. However, I'm going to throw a little fun one in here. I'm going to go Darren Stewart, second round submission.
Yeah, I think Darren Stewart is going to look to grapple here. By the way, I just noticed I totally forgot to write down notable losses for Darren Stewart.
We can talk about it.
I know there's a couple if you want to.
He actually does have some very... Okay, so he lost via submission to Carl Roberson, via submission to Julian Marquez, the Cuban Missile Crisis, lost via split decision to Edmund Shabazian, and then lost via split decision to Kevin Holland. Those are what do I try to say a lot, at least early on in the podcast? I always said there's no such thing as a good loss.
Yeah.
I mean, split decisions to Shabazian and Holland, especially Holland right now. Look at what that guy's doing. He arguably won that fight, too.
Yeah, he came on very strong at the end when Kevin started to fade.
Yeah, and that's the biggest reason. Even though it's a loss, that more than any of his wins is the reason I'm picking him here.
Yeah.
And I know that's weird. But I really think that if Stewart can survive kind of the onslaught, because Eric Anders can bring the pressure early. If he can just kind of withstand that, then I really think it's his fight after the first round.
Yeah.
And I think that's why I'm going second round submission.
Yeah, like you just said, I think what we've seen more recently from Stewart, even though there are still losses sprinkled in, he honestly just comes off to me as the better, well-rounded fighter as well. Mm-hmm. And I think he will have a significant advantage if he can get this to the ground. I'm going to submission as well. But I'm going round 3. Again, we see a guy that doesn't seem to fade, stays strong throughout 15 minutes. Eric Anders, we've seen the opposite. I think he gets it done in round 3. They might be a little slick down there.
I thought for sure I was going to be like the only person who got it picked him via submission.
Oh no, I like Darren Stewart. I like what we've seen of him recently. Like I said, win or loses, he's always in the fight. He's a tough guy, man.
Yeah, his record is really only as mixed as it is because of his early part. He's really been coming on strong as of late. Moving on to flyweight, another really interesting one here. Matthias, I think that's how you pronounce it. Nicolau and Manel Cape.
Yes, sir. So Manel Cape back in action. What, a month ago?
Yeah, it was that Volkov
and Overeem
card.
Yeah, and now he's 15-5, 9 KO TKOs, 5 submissions, 0-1 in the UFC following that debut. But we were talking about the former Ryzen bantamweight champion. He's won 3 of his last 4 fights, all via KO TKO. Obviously, he just lost his most recent one. He's got 7 first-round finishes. Notable wins over Ian McCall and Takashi Sato, both via KO TKO. Takeya Mizugaki. Sato's coming up later in the evening. Sorry, he's a little bit bigger. But he's fought guys that have been in the UFC and been a champion in another big organization. Don't sleep on Manel Cape just because of the lackluster debut. Mm-hmm. On the other end, Matthias, 15-2 with a draw, 4 KO TKOs, 5 submissions. He's 3-1 in the UFC and is making his reintroduction into the company. He had a little stint, did well, but got KO'd, went to another organization. Now he's back. He's got 4 first-round finishes, notable wins against Luis Smolka and John Moraga, both via decision. The lone loss in the UFC was a KO against Dustin Ortiz. I think we're in for a little bit of a barn burner here at flyweight. And that's because I think Cape's going to come out more aggressive, obviously.
Well, I can respect that kind of confidence. I was very confident in Cape in his debut, and it didn't quite live up. He was very just hesitant, and a lot of that could be his debut.
And Pantoja looks so damn good.
Pantoja did look really good. I want to talk about Matthias for a second.
Yeah, interesting career here.
So I know he's re-debuting for the company here, right? He had a stint, got cut, and finished on a KO loss to Dustin Ortiz. But before that, he was 3-1 in the promotion, that loss being his last fight. And you have to understand, for context, this was during that time that the UFC was kind of cutting a lot of their flyweights because it looked like they might have been planning to cut the division. That didn't happen. He goes on and wins 2 fights at Future UFC and then Brave at CF.
Yeah.
That was a tongue twister there.
You did well.
And now he's back. So I think he's definitely worthy to come back. I don't think that he should be treated like a guy making a debut here.
Yeah.
He's very well-rounded, as you can see by his finish rate. 9 out of 15, not bad. 4 via knockout, 5 via submission. All good stuff there. He even finished his debut in the UFC with a Japanese necktie.
A Japanese what? A
Japanese necktie submission.
That sounds dangerous.
Yep. And actually, the first fight he had with Future after being cut from the UFC, he also finished with a Japanese necktie.
So you're telling me we're going to see a Japanese necktie?
I'm not saying that, but I'm saying it wouldn't be the worst bet in the world.
I don't even know what the hell that looks like.
Now, for Manel Cape, a guy who's much better on the feet.
Yeah.
But he is still well-rounded, I would say. He's, that debut does have to kind of stick with you a little bit just because he did show a lot of promise considering what he did for Ryzen. And then to come in there and he just looked really flat. This looked very hesitant.
Right.
And I get it. It's Pantoja, who's a top 5 flyweight.
And he really looked like it then.
And now you're going down to Matthias Nicolau, who's making his re-debut here. But I don't think this is as much of a step down in competition as maybe other people might perceive it as. I'm still going to go Manel Cape. I think Manel Cape is going to be the better fighter here. I think he's going to... I think Nicolau's going to have a hard time getting this fight to the ground.
Yeah.
And I think Cape is really going to kind of manage the distance and maybe even hurt him a couple times on the feet. I'm still going to go decision win for Manel Cape. I don't think it's going to be the most exciting bout, even though it could be flyweights, fast guys. Mm-hmm. Still going decision, though. I'm
going the exact same way. I'm going Cape. I think he's going to bounce back strong. I think he's going to look significantly better. I think he's going to let the the weapons fly a little bit more in this fight. He's going to learn from those mistakes against Pantoja. Again, like you said, not necessarily a step down because this guy that he's fighting is a stud, in Matthias. But when you got a former champion from a prominent organization, you got to figure something's going to click eventually, and I think it's going to happen.
You would hope so. I mean, nothing from his debut told me that he's a worse fighter. It just showed what it told me was that he was mentally not as ready as he was physically. And that's why I believe he can turn that around here. My only worry is that this fight might be a bit lackluster, and then again, it's not going to do a ton for him moving forward in order to incite some interest in him as he continues to try to move up.
Both by fans and the organization.
Yeah, that's what I worry about, is that he's going to kind of come again with that hesitant approach, a little bit gun-shy, but just do enough to kind of get by Nicolau.
Yeah.
Moving on. Jonathan Martinez versus Davey Grant. Two unknowns here, so be interesting to break this one down.
This is one of those fights where we always say they put it on the main card for a reason, didn't they?
Did.
That's what we're thinking, anyway.
Yeah, unless it's Carlos Felipe and Jorgen De Castro.
That's true. You love going to that.
That's the only fight. That's the fight that always sticks out.
Jonathan Martinez, 13 wins, 3 losses. He got 7 KO TKOs, 2 submissions, 4-2 in the UFC, 3 first-round finishes. He's got a notable win over Thomas Almeida via decision. He's lost to Matt Schnell at LFC 49 back in 2015 via disqualification. Illegal knee. It's in the air right now. Andre Sukumthoth.
Andre Sukumthoth, I believe.
Sukumthoth. That's your guy.
No, that's your guy. He followed you.
He followed
you on Instagram for like a day.
Then he unfollowed me.
Yeah.
Anyway, lost to him via decision, and then lost to Andre Ewell via split decision. Other end, Davey, 12-4, 2 KO TKOs, 8 submissions. So polar opposites here in terms of KOs and submissions. He's 3-3 in the UFC. He's got 7 first-round finishes. Notable win against Marlon Chito Vera. Some notable losses to Chris Holdsworth via submission, and also got submitted by Manny Bermudez. What is it with these guys that are so good with submissions, but they always be getting submitted when they lose? I don't get it.
Yeah, isn't that kind of funny how that works?
This might be a fun little fight here.
Can we talk about Davey Grant's gaps in activity here is wild. This man made his debut at the Ultimate Fighter finale, November 2013. Did not fight again, and I'm not just saying in UFC, but professionally.
At all.
Until 2016.
Whoa.
That's a 3-year layoff. Well, 2.5 because it was November 2013 to February 2016. But 2.5 years. He fought twice in 2016. Then we don't see him again until July 2018.
Damn.
And then November 2019. And then July 2020. So this guy's activity is very spotty.
Hate to see it.
And I don't know what his injury history is or
Right.
what other factors could be at play. So I'm not saying anything about it.
Yeah, you're just pointing it out.
I'm just pointing out how when I saw the Marlon Vera win, I was like, I wonder how old this was. I was like, oh shit, 2016.
Yeah.
I think that makes him harder to judge. I mean, he is on a bit of a roll. That Martin Day win was very impressive. That knockout performance of the night bonus he got there. 50 G's, baby.
Thanks, Davey.
That came in the 3rd round at UFC 251. That was Fight Island.
Yeah.
While for Jonathan Martinez, man, I mean, that Thomas Almeida win is very impressive. And, he has fought tougher competition as a whole.
Yeah.
The Marlon Vera win's impressive, but Marlon Vera is a completely different fighter now than he was then. Stylistically, you got the submission guy in Davey Grant, and you got a guy that's going to look to knock you out in Jonathan Martinez. In this one, I'm going to side with Martinez. Mm-hmm. I think it does go to a decision. I think this could be very similar to his fight with Almeida, put it that way.
Yeah. I'm going the same exact thing. I'm going Martinez via decision. This is one of those fights where you're really intrigued to see how is it going to play out. Is Martinez going to keep the fight standing? Is Davey going to be able to get him down? Can Martinez fend off? Yada, yada, yada. Right. The list goes on and on. Bantamweights are always exciting, especially the division right now, and you need big wins or else you're just going to get lost in the pile of huge names in that division. So these guys are going to come out and hopefully look to prove a point. Again, they put it on the main card for a reason, over fights such as Angela Hill, Ashley Yoder. We'll see what happens here, but I'm going Martinez via decision.
Cool. So far, we're agreeing a lot.
I'm curious to see what
I think
we
it's
got here.
going to change here soon. This
is fight of the night.
Ring the bells. Sound the alarm. Fight of the night.
This is fight of the night.
Dan Ige, Gavin Tucker.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
All right. Well, Dan Ige, 50K. Dan Ige, 14 wins, 3 losses.
That's badass.
That is
nickname.
badass. 3 KO TKOs, 5 submissions. He's 6-2 in the UFC, and also came into the UFC on the Contender Series, 1-0 there. He's got 5 first-round finishes, notable wins against Kevin Aguilar via decision, Mashard Bektik via split decision, and also Edson Barboza via split decision. His Contender Series win was against Luis Gomez, and that was a submission. His notable loss in the UFC, well, a main event on Fight Island against none other than the Boston finisher, Calvin Kattar, in an absolute war. He never gave up, never quit. We're going to see much of that here in this fight as well. But Gavin Tucker, an absolute stud. 13 wins, 1 loss. 4 KO TKOs, 6 submissions. He's 4-1 in the UFC. 4 first-round finishes. Notable wins. Songwoo Choi, submission. Submitted Justin James. And then that great fight he had with Billy Quarantillo. Beat him in a decision there. Lone loss on his record and in the UFC. Rick Glenn via decision. Gavin's coming into this fight on a 3-fight win streak. Looking to make it 4, Noah. Does he get it done? You're picking Gavin.
Yeah, I think Gavin Tucker gets it done. And that loss to Rick Glenn, you could tell that really stuck with him because he took 2 years off after that.
Yeah.
And since then, he's looked like a completely retooled...
This guy's an animal.
He looks great. He's 34, kind of hitting that end of his prime right now. But he looks fantastic. That fight with Billy Q being a guy that's really on the rise, and we really are big fans of him. And Gavin Tucker completely controlled him and hurt him in that fight.
Gassed him out.
Yeah, I mean, it was a very impressive performance, Being able to use Billy's strengths kind of against him to where it was almost hurting him to even, because he was gassing. So it was like Billy Q's, things he's good at. Gavin Tucker was using it against him to let himself tire himself out. It was really impressive the way he did that. Dan Ige, however, not a very impressive fighter in his own right. He's really came on very quickly. That win over Barboza really catapulted him, and then he was, I believe, I don't know this for sure. I've said this twice now, a late replacement for that main event with Calvin Kattar.
Yeah, to go 5 rounds with Kattar, man.
Yeah, and I mean, it's no easy task.
Got some rounds.
Oh, I thought it was 4-1, but it's still...
Scorecard 3-2, I think, or something like that.
Maybe, I'm not sure. Regardless, I think that fight showed a lot, because I really wasn't sold on Dan Ige for a while, you know. Back-to-back split decisions with Mirsad Bektik and Edson Barboza. Not that, again, he won the fight, technically. I thought the Barboza fight
the Barboza one, we both agree.
The Bektik fight, I think he won. But the Barboza one, I'm like, I'm not too sure about that. However, the fact that he hung in there with those guys even shows that he is a top 15 level talent. I'm just not completely sold on him being necessarily higher than that right now.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that main event with Kattar might have done just as much harm as it did good for him for his future prospects, because he's going to be kind of forced into some of these matchups that he might not be really ready for. However, Gavin Tucker's a great fight for him because it's a guy who's outside the top 15, who's still sort of unproven. Billy Q, good win, but still looking to make that big, shiny win to really catapult
this is the
him.
one.
But I think that Tucker, I think, is ready for this challenge. And I think it's going to be a war. I think both guys are going to go back and forth here, but I'm going Gavin Tucker via decision.
Yeah, this is, like we said, the fight of the night here. Ige, a guy that the UFC seems to really believe in. They love building off of these Contender Series guys and girls, and that's just how it is when you're on that show, when you prove it. And, already been in a main event, 5 rounds with Kattar. He's been in some wars. Gavin Tucker also been in some wars. This is going to be nothing short of a fantastic fight. I'm so happy this got booked. But I'm going Ige here. I think he's going to bounce back. And I think he's going to get it done via decision. 3 rounds of just absolute beautiful chaos. And maybe even Could even be a split, to be honest with you. He's had his fair share of split decision wins already.
He really has.
And I think Gavin's going to bring everything he can to Ige and then some, but he's going to weather the storm.
Worth noting for both sides that Tucker is a late replacement for Ryan Hall here.
Yeah, right.
So you got Tucker coming in potentially with less of a camp than he would normally like, but then Ige's been preparing for a complete
wizard on the ground.
A wizard on the ground, and
Yeah.
now you're going up against Gavin Tucker.
Yeah.
So should be interesting to see how that factors into how both these guys look, but I think either way, regardless of how long their camps are, I think it's
We're in
be
for a
great
treat, aren't
fight.
we?
I
Yeah.
think so. Co-main event time.
Big fight. Important fight.
Hey, there's a lot on you here because you did your homework more so on this fight than any other.
Yeah.
Misha Serkinov, Ryan Spann, tell the people why this is the co-main event.
Hey, top 10 implications for the winner in this fight. So Misha, a perennial top 15 guy ever since he's come into the UFC. He's got 15 wins, 5 losses, 4 KO TKOs, 9 submissions. That's 13 out of 15 via finish. 6-3 in the UFC. He's got 11 first-round finishes. Notable wins against Kudalaba via submission. Submitted Nikita Krylov. Submitted Patrick Cummins. And, well, Jimmy Crute, Noah. And guess what he did? Submitted him.
With the Peruvian necktie.
Peruvian necktie.
Another necktie.
Yes, what's with the neckties? What about a bow tie? Anyway, notable losses. Volkan Uzdemir, 28 seconds. He got KO'd. That was when Volkan was just taking people's heads off.
Yep.
Glover Teixeira via TKO, and then got his face just clobbered in by a flying knee by Johnny Walker.
He really did, man.
When Misha loses, he likes to lose quickly. I'll just put it that way. And when he wins. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
For Ryan Spann, he's 18-6, 4 KO TKOs, 11 submissions, 2 guys that love getting it done on the ground. He's 4-1 in the UFC, also 1-1 on the Contender Series. He's got 13 first-round finishes, notable wins against the legend Antonio Rogerio Nogueira via KO, brutal one-punch KO, may I add. Submitted Devin Clark, and then got a split decision over the always smiling Sam Alvey. Mm-hmm. On the Contender Series, he beat Emiliano Sordi via submission. He lost to the very well-known Carl Roberson. That was via KO. Along with that loss, he's also lost to Trevin Giles back at LFA 3 in 2017 via split decision. And what do you know? They both share a similar loss. He also has been KO'd by Mr. Johnny Walker. Mm-hmm. This fight's going to be fantastic while it lasts, but no, it's not going to last very long.
Tell him why.
Because Misha Serkinov is going to get this fight done in the first round via submission. These guys are going to go to battle. Let me tell you, folks. They're going to come out guns a-blazing. It's going to be very fun. But Misha's going to be able to overwhelm Spann. Now, it's crazy because Spann is such a good grappler himself. But he doesn't want to grapple with Serkinov. He's going to want to keep this fight on the feet. He's the more dangerous fighter on the feet when it comes to one-punch power, the speed, the quickness. Serkinov, aggressiveness. He's going to want to push this fight to the fence, get the takedown early, look for the submission, bada bing, bada boom, get out. That's what it's going to come down to. Mm-hmm. Noah, where are you sitting on this one?
So I agree with you in the grappling aspect. I do think Serkinov is just, there's levels, right?
Yeah.
You know, Ryan Spann, really good grappler. But if you're going by technique, Misha Serkinov is one of the best in the whole light heavyweight division.
Oh, he's dangerous.
And he's proven it in the UFC. You know, he's not getting these submission wins just to get on the regionals. You know, he's doing this against guys like Jimmy Crute, Nikita Krylov, Jan Kudaleva, Patrick Cummins, you know, good names.
Yeah, and that Crute win, I mean, it's aging like a fine wine.
Yeah, and that was his last fight.
Yeah.
We have not seen him fight since September 2019.
And that fight was wild for as long as it lasted. Absolutely insane.
Yeah, if Jimmy Crute looked great early and then he got caught in a submission.
Yeah.
Here's my thing with this fight is that Ryan Spann, if his plan here is to kind of go for some grappling or something, I don't see it happening. But if that's what he does, I think he's in for a long night.
Yeah, he's
or
going
a short
keep
night,
this standing.
depending.
Yeah.
But I really question Serkinov's chin here, and against the younger, more powerful, the faster Ryan Spann.
Dude, Spann is huge, by the way.
He's
6'5", massive guy.
I think Ryan Spann's going to be able to finish this fight early.
Ooh,
so
wow.
I'm going Ryan Spann via first-round KO TKO. I mean, the guy nearly knocked out Johnny Walker. He does have some very nice wins in the UFC. He's dangerous, man. He's kind of dangerous wherever the fight goes. I just think in this situation, better utilized on the feet.
This is a huge fight, man, for both guys. Like I said, top 10 implications on the line. By the way, as Noah just mentioned, the fight with Spann and Walker. It's one of the craziest one-round fights you'll ever see in your life. I'm pretty sure they both got knocked out at the same time at one point in the fight. But this is a great co-main event. Good for them, getting the spotlight on them. But it's time to move on in, isn't it?
Yeah, the main event. Leon Edwards and Belal Muhammad. You got your work cut out here.
Leon's back.
Mm-hmm.
First time since July 2019 that we have seen Rocky enter the octagon. He's 18-3, 6 KO TKOs, 3 submissions. He's 10-2 in the UFC. He's got 5 first-round finishes. Notable wins: Vicente Luque via decision, Cowboy Cerrone via decision, Gunnar Nelson and RDA both also being decision wins. The lone 2 losses in the UFC: Claudio Silva, way back win via split, and then also lost to Kamaru Usman, the current welterweight king, via decision. Since then, Leon has not lost a fight. He's probably not even lost a damn round. This dude is just such a beast.
Yeah.
He's on an 8-fight win streak. Came into the UFC, started 2-2, now he's 10-2. But remember the name, Noah. Belal Muhammad coming in on a 3-4 weeks notice. Also 18 wins, 3 losses. Love that. 4 KO TKOs, 1 submission. Both guys are fans of just taking it all the way to the distance. 9-3 in the UFC with wins against Randy Brown, Tim Means, Takashi Sato. That's where he came in. That was via submission. And then his most recent bout with Diego Lima. Damn, one of his best performances that he has had. Looked so good in that fight. Losses, your guy, Alan Joban, via decision. Got KO'd by Vicente Luque, as many others do. And also lost the decision to Mr. Jeff Neal. Belal coming in this on his own little win streak here, 4 in a row.
Mm-hmm.
Noah, which win streak is going to be extended?
It's going to be Leon's. We haven't seen Leon in a while. Obviously, July 2019. That could play a factor here. The guy's kind of had a rough go of getting a fight booked, so you just never know what that's going to do to someone's kind of mental preparation.
Yeah.
Belal, being that he's been pretty active, he just fought a few weeks ago, and then before that he was on the Blades Volkov card over the summer, so very active guy over the past year. You got to think that he's going to have some sort of edge there, but outside of that, I don't see where Belal really wins this fight. I really don't.
Leon's good, man.
Belal, he's kind of good. He's sort of one of those guys that's kind of a jack of all trades, master of none. Where he's kind of good enough at everything to get by.
Yeah.
But I don't think he really excels at a whole lot.
And especially, man,
I hate to say that because I like the guy and I like that he's kind of getting this moment to shine. I'm just not sure how warranted it is. I'm not even sure if I'm going to go out on a limb here, especially if he wins this fight. I'll have to eat my words. I'm not really sure. I think he might even be a little overrated in his ranking right now.
Wowzers.
Now, he does have good wins. Randy Brown's a good win. Curtis Millender, Lyman Good, Diego Lima, Takashi Sato. That's a great win. I just think when you're going up against Leon Edwards, who, in his own right, I'm also not completely sold on either. And when I say that, I just mean I'm not sold on him actually being like a champion. There's the difference right there.
It doesn't help when the guy in your weight class is an absolute stud with the belt.
If I think, what's Belal 11?
I think he's 13th actually.
13th.
Yeah.
Well,
taking on
maybe he's not
3.
overrated. I'm just saying that I don't really see where Belal wins this fight. Obviously, puncher's chance, and maybe he does have some good fight IQ. He has been able to he's got a lot of decision wins, so cardio's not going to be a problem. But
Neither one of these guys are getting tired.
That's the thing. You're going up against Leon.
Yeah.
Leon's boxing's going to be crisp here. I think Belal's he's one of those guys that really allows himself to kind of get hit a lot, and I think when you're going up against such a good boxer like Leon Edwards, it's just not a good recipe. But I'm going to go Leon Edwards via decision. I don't see Belal getting finished here. And if I'm going to even be a little more pessimistic than I already am being, truthfully, I don't think this fight, the way I see it going, I don't know if it really does much for Leon. It's tough because I think it's a good move to just
take a fight.
You lost Hamzat again. fuck it, just
fight.
take a fight.
Yeah.
But if he doesn't really show me something here, like if he doesn't finish this fight, if he doesn't dominate this fight, I really don't know if it moves his standing.
No, I mean, really, for Leon here, well, I'm just going to go for both. Leon, he's got everything to lose. Really not much to gain. For Belal,
Yeah.
he has nothing to lose and everything to gain out of this fight.
Yeah.
So two guys coming in with completely different mindsets here, potentially. Two very similar styles. I do see it being a bit of a technical battle on the feet with Leon just going to be able to get the upper hand. If I'm Muhammad here, I'm trying to really make Leon uncomfortable if I can. That's way easier said than done, obviously, because we've seen Leon time and time again weather every storm. But we know Leon's going to pick his shots, be the very crisp, technical boxer, and it's beautiful to watch him go to work. Bilal, especially that fight against Lima, man, if he can bring that sort of pressure where he's forcing Leon's back against the cage, his landing kicks, landing the straight jabs to the body, to the face, inside leg kicks, he's got to mix it up and make Leon uncomfortable. Will he have his moments? Yeah, I think he'll have a few, but overall, I think Leon is just, it's such a big test.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot to ask out of him.
It's such a big test.
And I'm glad you actually, sorry, I didn't want to cut off your prediction, but I'm glad you brought that up about, I really think that if Bilal's going to do anything here, I think it's got to be early. I think he's got to really go after him.
Yeah.
Because this is a guy who hasn't fought in a year and a half. A guy who has had so many fights fall out.
Yeah,
COVID took a big effect on his training and everything. You got to believe that that's going to, something mentally is going to be off at least in the beginning. Like there might be just a slight hesitation.
You can train and spar all you want, but that in-ring feel of a fight, it's just
and let's
different.
be honest, I mean, Leon over the last, really since he's been on this winning streak, he does tend to play it kind of safe.
Yeah.
That's why a lot of these fights go to decision. He's a great fighter, but he does play it safe. He does kind of just do what he needs to do to win, and I'm not saying he should do more than that, but right now, this is a fight to make a statement.
Yeah.
And I just don't think he's going to do it. I think he's going to do enough. I think he's going to win the fight clearly. I could even see it being 50-45.
Yeah.
But to me, that's not enough. Look at what happened with Gane against Rosenstruik.
Mm-hmm.
He 50-45'd Rosenstruik across the board.
But not too much came out of it.
Yeah.
I'm going Edwards, and I'm going decision, just like you. I just think it's too big of a step right now. And like I said, Muhammad, he has... I just think there's more pathways to victory in the ways that the fight can play out. There's just more of those for Leon. That's just what it's coming down to for me. He's been in there with so many incredible fighters, including the current champion. And it's just a big step, man. Can Belal get it done? Yeah, he can shock the world. And again, as Noah said, it's great that he's getting this spotlight, a guy that's very popular within the MMA community. The community as a whole is going to be rooting for him here, I'd have to imagine.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I think we're in for a good fight, but more so technical than anything. And I think Leon gets it done and extends that win streak to 9 in a row, man.
Nice. We had very similar predictions there.
We did. I think
outside
4 out of 6.
Yeah. But that is our preview for hashtag UFC Vegas 21. Dominic, do you have the times?
Prelims at 5. Actually, it might even be... There's a lot of prelims. I think it's a 5, though. Mm-hmm. All ESPN Plus. Main card, 8 p.m. We love when they're
Eastern
a little bit
Standard
early.
Time.
Yeah, Eastern Standard Time, yes.
I'm glad that you had that in your back pocket.
I try to pull it out.
I never know.
I love how you just throw me on the spot.
I just sink or swim, kid. But that is our preview for hashtag UFC Vegas 21. Check out these fights on ESPN Plus. It's going to be a good night of fights, I believe.
Yeah, good prelims, too.
Mm-hmm. As for next week, Monday, we'll be recapping hashtag UFC Vegas 21. We'll talk about all the fights that happen here, along with some prelim notables, per usual, and the news.
Yes.
And then Wednesday, once again, time for another...
I just got so confused. I was like,
yeah. I'm just going to go ahead and plug it, though.
Yeah, do it.
Yeah, I just kind of got carried away.
No, you're good.
So not next Wednesday, but the Wednesday after.
Yeah.
Our special episode will be another classic pay-per-view review.
Yeah.
And this time it's going to be for UFC 220. Now,
There's
you
a
might
reason.
ask yourself,
Yeah.
I wonder what happened on this card. I wonder why it's a classic or why it's relevant.
Like, that's not even that long ago.
That's because a week later,
That same week.
That same week.
Yeah, it'll be the same week.
We're seeing the rematch of these two guys.
Correct.
And this is their first encounter.
Yes, sir.
UFC 220 headlined by Stipe Miocic. Miocic? Why I struggle sometimes with his last name. Going up against Francis Ngannou. Also Daniel Cormier defending against his light heavyweight belt against Volkan Oezdemir.
His last light heavyweight fight.
Mm-hmm.
Little did we know at that time.
Yeah, so we will be giving a review of that card in anticipation for UFC 260.
Yes. That is Wednesday, March 24th.
Yeah, I kind of had to spill the beans because I got carried away there.
Of course.
I'm just too excited to talk about it.
Of course.
But obviously, this next week we will not have a Wednesday episode.
Right.
But Monday recap. Dominic. Until then, tell the good people where they can find you on social media.
Twitter, Instagram, @DSLEE14. Gotta plug the article again. Go check it out if you haven't already. Misha Serkinov, Ryan Spann. I hyped it up as much as I could for you here. Go read my words now in writing. Find the podcast on Twitter, Instagram, @BAJ_MMA podcast. And Noah's going to take us out.
Wow. As for me, if you go to my bio on Twitter or Instagram, @NTBaker_, you'll be taken to our link tree, which gives you the links to all the platforms that the podcast is on, along with the social media platforms. That includes the Twitter, the Instagram, the YouTube channel, and Spotify, Google, and Apple Podcasts. It's all on there, baby. And there's a couple links for the Anchor page. First,
do it.
Leaving a voice message. If you have a thought, a feeling about an upcoming fight, a fight that's already taken place, a news story, if you want to say hi or tell us we're a piece of shit, do it there. You got 60 seconds to do it. Also, there's a link if you want to become a supporter of the podcast. That just provides us with a few dollars a month, and all that money goes back into improving the quality of the podcast. Whether it be improving the audio equipment or down the line doing a video podcast. So again, you can find all that if you go to my bio on Twitter or Instagram @NTBaker_. But with that, we're out, and we'll see y'all on Monday.
Have a great freaking weekend.